Good morning, friends. Hello. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. Most importantly, before we kick it off here, before we turn to the fine gentleman joining me, I want to give a quick shout out to all of the mothers out there. If you want to give her a big hand from everybody here at Love Wrestling. Of course, whether you're a mother figure in somebody's life, we appreciate everything that you guys do, whether it is in a very serious manner as motherhood is, or whether you're young giving birth to a hand. Welcome, as I said, to Sunday Brunch, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. It is great to see you guys. Maniac hopping in. It is mimosa time. B-words.
I'm Maniac.
It's nice to see you, friend. And a good evening to you too, Sandy. Thank you for joining. Always on time and always here for Sunday Brunch. Nice to see you as well. It's just a good day. There's been a lot going on over here on Love Wrestling. We're going to give you guys a taste of what we've got coming up in the next week later on in the show, but we'll get to that in a second. JJ, hope you're well as well. I'm doing great this morning, but you tuned in at a great time because we're about to find out how everyone else is doing. Parrish, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see a nice set of gear in the background again, man. How are you? How are things?
I'm impatiently waiting for scrambled eggs that have taken 90 minutes. How are you doing?
Not all that enthused, it sounds like.
It's scrambled eggs. I made them because I screwed up a French toast at 9. And I was
okay, you know what? That one's your own fault, man.
I was supposed to skip the dish. This is now skipping the day.
You are now skipping efficiency is what it sounds like. Maniac, completely agree. Happy Mother's Day to Mrs. Maniac as well, the head of the marketing division here at Love Wrestling. A scrambled egg match. All right. Yeah, well, obviously the French toast would come out the loser if Parrish is the one cooking Mighty Joe.
They're also on the way too. I don't skip on maple syrup and French toast, people.
Well, we've noticed. Don't worry. It's a good thing. Good Canadian boy. Mighty Joe, another good Canuck. Good to see you, man. How are things?
I'm doing pretty good. This morning, I cooked my own eggs. I made my own coffee. And I also made my own smoothie, so Parrish can suck it.
Some of us have stuff on the go. We can't do it all, Joe.
Excuse the heart attack you just gave me. Very well played on that one, because I was even going to say, I think it was you that brought up while we were in the pre-record here that, like, even by this point, Parrish, if you had gone to cook your eggs by the time you first complained that you hadn't had eggs, you'd have eggs by this.
But then I'd still be out of money because Ali can't get here in 10 minutes.
Well, be that as it may for your personal driver, I'm not going to complain about the company.
Oh, he's fired. He is fired.
Ed, good to see you, my friend. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers for the Love Wrestling crew and the fans. 100%, we will shout that out.
I don't think any of our mothers watch. Maybe Parrish.
Hey, my mom might be tuned in. She has a
can't
couple
turn
of
on a
times.
phone.
My
She
mom,
was not watching.
hey, to put my mom over 110% of the time, she quite literally created a YouTube account so she could subscribe. So huge shout to my mom, whether she watches or not. You know, I don't blame her. She's not a pro.
All right, boys, have your best behavior.
But
Spencer's mom is watching.
That's exactly it. That's why I don't curse all that often on here. Shout out to my mom. And again, the shout out to mothers everywhere. Like Mrs. Maniac brunch mug, check, breakfast check. Unlike a Parrish, apparently. Let's go. It is good to see you, Mrs. Maniac. Of course, the head of the marketing division here at Love Wrestling.
I do have
Throwback, it's good to see you as well. How are you, my friend? Just kicking it at work? You're enjoying the conversation? Can't wait to hear what we have to say. Hopefully, we've got something interesting to say. We're coming in a little dry, as they say. We don't really have any topic of conversation specifically in mind. So feel free to throw yours in the comments there. But as we let you guys ponder that, we're going to turn to the Canadian Goose. Honk, honk, honk. How are you doing? How's Mrs. Goose?
She doesn't exist.
Mama Goose.
Mama.
Oh, Goose. Bad all around.
My mom is good. She's going to go to Red Deer today to visit my grandma. So
good. Awesome. Good to see you as well, my friend. Nice mug. Everybody's starting to get
hear me and everything, Because I spent the last bit of that thing.
Oh, don't worry. Like if we didn't hear you, that would have been a much more awkward conversation there in the last 30 seconds than it already was. So we're just going to quickly move on. We're going to shift over to the man that's joining us for a Sunday dinner, I would have to assume by this point in the day. Magsy, it's good to see you, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Yeah, we're lucky over here because we had Mother's Day in March, so I don't have to really give a damn about my mum today.
Ouch!
Sorry, Mum.
That's the part, like, there are a couple of parts we're going to make sure we specifically avoid clipping for the highlights that we send out as far as this goes, but we'll leave that one as is. Way to bring it to a honking halt. Hilarious. Well played. And of course, Throwback, want to bring this back up because thank you for the cheers. If you guys are tuned in on Twitch, please feel free to support. We affiliated a couple of weeks ago. You can subscribe. You can throw some cheers in there as our good friend Throwback has done. But however you guys have chosen to support this morning, it is appreciated. Gentlemen, I don't have a specific topic in mind. There are few out there that I could pick your brains on, but I feel like they're really MLW specific, and we've touched on them a lot lately. So if we want, we can certainly dig in there. Good day, Conrad. Good to see you, my friend. Parrish, hop in on it. I'll give you the big screen for it even.
What do we think about the new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae? I believe that is something we could talk about. That happened.
I think it is. I think that this is certainly something I'm excited about. Nothing against what Shotzi and Ember were doing. They're fantastic. I don't need to tell anybody how much I love Shotzi Blackheart. I've done that plenty before. But I think everyone would be in agreement here that Candice LeRae is about forever due from holding a championship in WWE. Like, she is incredible. Super excited for her. And indie wrestling. Like, come on. Indie wrestling is absolutely the best nickname out there, and Indy Hartwell is a fantastic pro wrestler. I'm psyched for it. This is, I suppose, the first time that I felt that the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships were justified, if that makes sense. Nothing against anyone who carried them, but like the big appeal in the women's tag titles on the main roster, quote unquote, now was that they could travel to all brands, and because of that, we got matches like Io Shirai versus Sasha Banks because Sasha had a reason to be on NXT outside of that sort of wild card rule, brand-to-brand invitational, that BS they keep throwing our way every 6 months, it feels like. So it felt like that was a missed opportunity over the last little bit, especially when they went right back to the well with Dakota and Raquel Gonzalez versus Shotzi and Ember right off the bat. But I'm excited for it. I'm very, very excited about it. JJ agreeing with me because, of course, I'm making a great point about time Candice won a belt in WWE/NXT. Hell yeah, brother, as they say in professional wrestling. Mighty Joe, thoughts?
I like it too. It is nice to see Candice finally with the title in the WWE, and I think it's time to, with the women here, to really start fully investing in some of these tag teams because they have a lot of women talent, but stop like doing these short runs and then splitting everybody up. Like actually start investing and actually making some tag teams out of these women. And make it that direction. Because I've even made the pitch before that I'd actually like to see a separate show, a separate brand with just the women, so they can have an opportunity to truly showcase. And then one of the parts of that could be like an actual women's tag team division with actual women tag teams. That would be absolutely fantastic. And somebody with the experience of Candice, I think it could help facilitate that, so to speak.
She's incredible. I said it before. I'll say it again. I really appreciate the time she won the PWG Tag Team Championships all on her own. That was fantastic. Magsy, your thought? Sorry, Plug just popped me in the comments. Good to see you, buddy. Do you guys think The Rock makes a good scrambled egg? Yeah, and they'll probably get there quicker than Parrish's did this morning.
I'm just waiting till a break.
Maniac popping me as well. What do you think Vince hates more, the men's tag division or the women's tag division? Yes.
Both.
There's
I'm going to say CM Punk.
Wrestling in general. It just hates wrestling in general.
Well, it's a banned word in WWE. It's right in the list of Rayleigh Grill position. You can't say the word wrestling anymore.
He doesn't hate he doesn't hate tag teams. He just doesn't like tag team wrestling. He prefers tag team sports entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, and like I buy into the mentality that like you have to have single stars. Don't get me wrong, but like
It's used too much as like a
why?
stepping stone.
Then
Well,
why did
that's
you
exactly
hire
it.
identical
Why-
twins like 5 different times?
Well, and that's
In
and-
case
and
one
you've
got
done
hurt, be
that.
like, hey, he's still here, or she's
Well, they've
still
done
here.
that. They've done that, and they've proven they can do it well, right? Like the Usos. Of course, they're a perfect first of mind example when you think of that, right? But like
Bella
them,
twins.
the New Day for sure are marketable stars. Yeah, like whether you think that the Bella Twins are great wrestlers or not, they are
Yeah,
definitely marketable stars. They definitely are marketable stars, right? Like Total Divas, as far as a cable program goes, which, you know, let's talk about ratings. It's a pretty highly rated reality television show.
It is.
Right. I know that takes away from like the tag team wrestling conversation we're having, but it's just proof that WWE, when they put effort into tag teams as marketable stars, does it well, as they do everything well that they choose to put an effort into. Like it's truly odd to me. JJ bringing up a great point as well. What other tag teams does NXT have in the division? Don't want to see 500 matches between the two same teams like the main roster. An idea I've seen is send the Riot Squad to NXT. Yeah, I was talking about that when they did the Dusty Rhodes Classic for women a couple of months ago. They would have been perfect. I saw them having a long run in it and sort of the you know, those typical 5 teams you'd love to see. Well, I did one because I felt like doing it. So
To be
whatever.
fair, though,
I
back
can be
then
cliche
we
when
thought
I
the
want
tag
to.
team classic, though, there was only one set of tag team titles for the women, so we had a completely different mindset going into that tournament.
That's another like real weird one. Like, so just here's the run through of those couple of weeks. If we want to talk about why this is why I feel that we're finally getting to the point where these titles are great. And again, through the hard work of Shotzi and Ember, and then the win of Candice and Indy. You kicked off these championships with a great tag team great tag team tournament for the #1 contendership for the women's tag team titles. Great. Excellent idea in theory. Love it. You bring down Nia and Shayna. You have them wrestle on NXT. You get the proverbial main roster rub that I know doesn't always make sense, but just work with the theory. That happens. Adam Pearce, out of nowhere, comes and interferes in that match. He calls out a new referee after the ref bump. That, to this point, has quite literally never been followed up on. Not once, 0 times. I don't think there's been a backstage interaction, anything of the sort. Adam Pearce went back to playing like the face authority figure. And they named new tag team championships or announced new tag team championships. Quite literally the next week is like oh, hey, sorry, you got screwed. So they almost seem like a consolation prize at that point. And then Dakota and Raquel lose them that night. It was just a very, very odd start to those titles for me. JJ, you hit the nail on the head. I think they would need to do some work. There are a lot of teams that you could align. Like I wouldn't have an issue with bringing back the Tony Storm, Mercedes Martinez team that they ran with in the Dusty Cup. I know that they had their blow off in their match. You can bring them back together. It's pro wrestling. You can find a way. There's
who's the girl with Aaliyah?
Jesse Kamea, right?
Yeah,
and there's that too. You can throw the Robert Stone brand in it. There are a lot of alliances. Like you'd have to take, I think, a month or a solid couple months to build the stories behind why the teams are there. But there's definitely the talent. There's definitely the talent. Throwback, thank you for fact checking me. There was a segment where Regal was interviewed saying that was messed up, that he was going to do something about it. Neat.
What a Regal move of him.
I have a bit of
He's just a good dude. He's just a great dude. We've also got in here, Joe, that I think will be a good one for you to touch on. Any thoughts on the current position of NJPW? How's everybody feeling on the product? Admittedly, I guess the best answer I can give is I don't know, because I haven't watched in a while, which I think says everything.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, I think like you said, you can speak better to it. Mags, you can probably speak better to it than I can too. Shit, everybody can speak better to it than I can.
I think that's back just briefly before I address the NJPW thing. I think part of the problem with WWE, and I've got it on my phone right now, unless you're an awesome belt collector like Mags is there with 2, 4, 6 title belts. I think that really the root of the problem in WWE is we have too many championships, right? We've got the WWE Championship, we've got the Raw Women's Championship, United States Championship, Raw Tag Team Championship, Universal Championship, right? You can see where I'm kind of going with this, is that they don't feel special or significant because we have just so many of them, right?
Yeah,
So,
fair point.
so I think, but also in the NJPW situation, I think what's kind of happening there is like the roster is still kind of short just because of the travel restrictions and whatnot. We're running a lot of shows, and we're seeing a lot of like 6-man and 8-man tag matches with a lot of the same talent. And as fun as it is to watch Minoru Suzuki and Yuji Nagata and these kind of guys beat the crap out of each other on a regular basis, it does get a little stale after a little while. And but one of my main concerns, though, with the NJPW product, that some of you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, but I think Mags will, is that they're talking about running essentially just a regular show at the Tokyo Dome. And that just kind of blew my mind when I heard that, because, I mean, the Tokyo Dome is reserved for Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Well, we could be venturing down the WWE path there, where we're going to do more shows at this big venue, and it's going to take away from that special feeling that Wrestle Kingdom has, right? So
I get it. I get where that comes from. Don't get me wrong, but like when you're dealing with the situation that the world's in right now, what with this pandemic,
right?
If they're doing it, and I don't know enough on it, like you again can speak better to it than I can, but like if they're doing it for what I would assume are like it's a bigger stadium, you can social distance more, you can do that sort of stuff, then like I get it. I hate when like the reputation is tarnished, quote unquote, but I would rather have something like that than not have wrestling. And if that's the way to do it safely, that's the way to do it safely. Joe, I'll let you finish off here. I'll throw JJ's comment up here first, though. New Japan has been hit the most with this pandemic, lost all overseas talent. Half the available talent is working hurt. The best part about NJPW is that New Japan strong in the United States.
I could argue against that, but
well, feel free. You've got the platform, you got the microphone. JJ, feel free to argue in the comments too. Let's engage banter. I'll bring them all up.
Battle Royale.
Because the other thing to take into account too, as opposed to the WWE, New Japan relies greatly on the gate for these events, right? They rely on ticket sales. To keep things going, and that's not happening right now. I mean, we have a fair amount of fans, but we're not drawing the usual crowds that we do on a typical basis. And but I mean, still at the same time, I mean, they really do go for that true kind of sports-like presentation. Wrestling over in Japan is presented as a legitimate sport. And which makes it very unique in the wrestling business. Now, when it comes to New Japan Strong, I know it's going to be good. We need a crowd back, and we need people on commentary that have like some gusto, like Kozlov and these guys. I mean, they're just so dry on commentary. We need somebody that can really kind of truly put over the product and what's going inside the ring to bring that to the next level, because it has a tremendous amount of potential once we get back to quote unquote normal, but we're not there yet. So
fair point.
Bad by any means, but it has a lot of room for growth, and it will happen eventually.
Throwback, want to thank you for the cheers. I've got your comment next up on the docket because I think that's a great question as well. Magsy, like I said, I think you might have a little more insight into the New Japan side of things than I do. I can guarantee that anybody else does than I do. And then we'll move on to Throwback unless anyone else has thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to just reiterate a lot what Joe said. In Japan, wrestling is looked at as a legitimate sport. And
Conrad with a great point there too. Sorry to interrupt, but wrestling results are literally in their newspapers.
Yeah, they have sports papers based on just professional wrestling. And they've also had issues with a COVID outbreak. A couple of talents got positive results recently, and I think just today they've announced that 7 more have got positive results. Yeah. So any kind of future shows have now been totally cancelled. So I don't know where they're going to go after this for the next few weeks or so. But if you look back at Dontaku, which was affected by these COVID results, I think they still did really well to kind of book on the fly and give us a really good show. I mean, the Ospreay and Shingo match is potentially one of the matches of the year. It was absolutely outstanding. Jay White against Tanahashi. Stunning match that has really elevated. I mean, we were talking about the NXT women's tag team titles. If there's a title in wrestling that is so overlooked. It's the never title, and now it's the second most prominent title in New Japan because of the way it's been elevated by the likes of Shingo, by the likes of Tanahashi, and now by Jay White, who's one of the biggest stars in the company. So there's still a lot of positives for New Japan. I just think I think JJ made the best point. They've been so affected by COVID. They've lost such a big part of the talent. The rest of the talent are working hurt because of the style of wrestling, and then they've been hit with infected wrestlers. It's just been a trifecta of issues for New Japan, and I think the best thing for them now is to maybe close ranks and shut up shop until they can rest these wrestlers and hopefully get them back fit and come back stronger. But I've got to agree with a lot of what Joe said.
Fair points. Couple of shout outs I want to give. Hello, Jesse. It is wonderful to see you. If you guys are watching on Twitch, make sure that whether you're doing it right now or doing it after the stream, throw her some support. I always love tuning in. I know I speak for a lot of people here as well. Good human beings are good people to support. Jesse is certainly one of them. Show some love. Conrad, thank you for showing some love our way and throwing the cheer. And Hunter Ridge Farm, thank you for the sub. It is appreciated as all heck. Apologies for the language there. I don't like to curse, but it is appreciated as all heck that you would throw the subscription in on that. And JJ, I'll throw your comments up there, but then I do want to get to Throwback because I don't want to lose that comment there. I've enjoyed Strong way more than the pandemic era of New Japan because besides the G1 from last year, Young Lions getting more experience. My guy Filthy is the champ. We've had some big moments with Moxley. Lots of love for a Filthy Tom Lawler shout. You know that I always appreciate those, my friend. Throwback hopping in there. And Shaw, I'm going to move to you on the first one here. Do you guys consider a true Grand Slam in WWE, the Universal, WWE Championship, both tags, North American title? What do you guys consider a Grand Slam as far as it goes?
I mean, for me, it's like the WWE Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, the European Championship, the Tag Team Championships. Like, when I think of Grand Slam winners, I'm thinking like Owen Hart and Shawn Michaels. Like, if anybody wanted to win like the Grand Slam, all the belts in today's WWE, well, I mean, that's a tall task. And then like, there's somewhere it's like, if you're like a main event wrestler, do you want people to know you've held the 24/7 championship? Like,
yes, unequivocally, yes.
Like
that's Kyle, at the top of your resume. Like, alphabetical.
Yes. I love R-Truth, and I think he's fantastic. But I
unequivocally want people to know I've carried that championship.
Have you?
Yes.
See, like, I believe you because that's how many people have held it.
Who hasn't?
Like,
there have been like newscasters who have held it. It's fantastic. And then let's just get real here. The fact that the 24/7 title wasn't used more on social media throughout this entire it's free content. It's effing free content.
yeah.
And not that they've done a bad job with it, but it's used a lot on the television program, at least was up until the last few months of it. So little of that is social media exclusive shit. And they like to push, and rightfully so. Social media is where all the linear eyeballs are, or whatever the phrase du jour happens to be for WWE. Why aren't you pushing shit like that? Like Jinder Mahal winning the 24/7 title on the golf course. Fantastic. R-Truth winning it on the plane on the way to Saudi Arabia. Only good moment outside of Titus World Slide to come out of the Saudi Arabian shows. Right? Like, that's about all that I'm very frustrated that they don't do more with that because, like, Shaw, you're right. I love R-Truth too, and they've done so much good with it. I would be proud to be a 24/7 title holder. I would 100%. There we go. Vacation doctors should become the 24/7 title holders. Yes. Yeah. Yes, they should. We are all 24/7 title holders. In fact, you know what? Somebody else pick up the conversation. Joe, what's a Grand Slam here?
I mean, currently, it would just be completely ridiculous to try and figure it out just because I said, like, all the titles feel like even like the should be like the crown jewel, so to speak. I'm not making any reference to Saudi Arabia. But that the WWE Championship.
Pun fully intended, Joe. Let's just come on.
Yeah. So much.
Don't skate over that one. Don't try and cover for a bad joke. You can't cover for that.
I didn't want to go too far down the rabbit hole with the Saudi Arabia stuff, but with the WWE Championship, like, it doesn't feel like the pinnacle of this company anymore. Like it right now, largely due to what Roman's been doing. The Universal Championship, I mean, is obviously the more prestigious title at the moment, whereas like the WWE Championship feels like it's like almost like the mid card title at this point. So
I think that's a symptom of the cause, though, right? Like when you have two shows, there's automatically going to be the instances in which that happens, right? Like last year, right after WrestleMania, when Drew and Braun Strowman were your WWE and Universal title holders, it was flip-flopped. And it's not like even right now, Hurt Business breaking up and that, I think we would all say, being a bad decision aside, it's not like Bobby Lashley and MVP have dropped off in the work they're doing themselves. No. They're just, you don't have the Hurt Business, and that's just a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It ain't any discredit to the work that he's done.
Oh no.
But yeah, like when you look at Roman Reigns and the Universal Championship scene, like it feels like the A title, for lack of a better way to put it. But like since signing with Fox, SmackDown has become the A show, right? Like,
clearly.
Anybody want to argue that? I don't think it is. I'd be interested to hear any argument to it.
Because I mean, over on the Raw side of things, I mean, you're essentially, you have a pay-per-view length show every single week.
Sorry, throwback popping me in the chat. Strowman is the longest title holder in the company. Technically, he still holds the green belt from the Saudi show and still has it. Yeah. Does that consider him the Middle East champion? I think he is still the greatest Royal Rumble champion. I think that was what he officially was. Yeah. Closely followed up, I think Walter has carried the NXT UK championship longer than Shane McMahon has technically been best in the world, but those are pretty close together.
I think Kaylee Ray's been the NXT UK Women's Champion for a long time as well.
For a while too, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think Walter's a little longer than her, but they're very, very close. Let's get real. Like, the only reason that I don't watch as much NXT UK as I should is strictly based on the time zone.
Yeah.
Strictly based on the time zone for me. They do a lot of the things that I think a lot of wrestling fans with similar opinions to mine, not to claim it's everyone's, but like I love a long championship reign. I love when you give the title the prestige that Joe, you're sort of alluding to, maybe some of them don't have right now, right?
But like I said, with the reason why I've actually started watching SmackDown is that it's 2 hours long. That's manageable. Raw is it's so long and so mediocre, and there's so much other great wrestling content out there. I watched New Japan, I watched Ring of Honor, watching a little bit more MLW now, I'm watching some OVW. I'm not going to spend 3 hours watching something that I know that I'm going to be disappointed by.
Absolutely. Andre hopping in. Good to see you, buddy. I'll be trading you some Pokemon after the show today. I love brunch. I love you. I love wrestling. It's great to see you guys. I appreciate you hopping in on Sunday Brunch. Parrish, Have you got your scrambled eggs yet? You're looking either more disappointed or you're just sitting
Goose
on a couple of good points.
Well, there's three things. I said I do have it. I was waiting for a break first, but I also want to fact check Goose, because as much as I love Owen Hart, he's not a Grand Slam winner. He was never considered WWF or WWE champion.
Right.
2, a traditional Grand Slam is constituted between 2 to 3 pieces of French toaster pancakes with eggs and Detroit.
That's a Grand Slam. I can get it.
You can build your own now. You can build your own Grand Slam. So whether we're talking Denny's or championships, we can debate them either way.
I mean, I was surprised that, considered the theme of Sunday Brunch, nobody has gone that way yet. Right. So I was holding on to that one, keeping the straight face.
Come on, we know we gotta save the pop for you sometimes.
It's exactly what I freaking ordered too, by the way. But I mean, really, a Grand Slam is one of the main championships, 2 of the mid-card, and a tag team.
Yeah.
And what's really unfortunate with WWE is, like, now they've kind of convoluted their titles. Another reason why I thought Kenny Omega should sign with WWE, because if he likes collecting titles, go to WWE. They have way too many. But needless to say, like, you got to look at each show and you got to say, okay, they got one heavyweight championship, they got one mid-card title, they got a women's title, they got a tag team title, and then those tag team champions for the women go to both Raw and SmackDown. So you kind of have to collect, I think now, either a mid-card or a heavyweight of the different brand to kind of constitute a Grand Slam. I think that secondary mid card and a secondary
And your
heavyweight
Grand
title
Slam
can be
anymore
constant.
without thinking of Denny's Parish, damn it.
Yeah, well, you know what?
All I
I'm
heard is like that one.
If I'm
All I
thinking
heard
it,
is
we're
like
all
that
thinking.
one. All I heard is like that one Family Guy clip with Ace Frehley, like my Grand Slam was supposed to come with sausage. I'm sorry, you've ruined a lot for me right now. You've ruined right in. Even Mrs. Maniac popping for you. Parish sliding into home base with a funny. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Well
guess
done,
what? That
verbiage
home
on that
run
end,
was.
too.
I had 3 people on base. It was also a grand slam. Boom.
Ed hopping in. Thank you for the fact check in there, sir. Walter with that's incredible when you think about those two reigns right there. Walter is 764. Kaylee Ray is 616. Think about the fact, and I think this for me is the one that will really solidify it as far as Kaylee Ray specifically. She beat Miko Satomura in Satomura's second match with NXT UK, and in no way, shape, or form has anybody been damaged, to use like the wrestling historian quote for it. Like, Miko Satomura for the last 25 years has been the final boss of women's wrestling, and she came in and lost her second match to someone like that. If anything else hadn't solidified anyone before, that fact certainly should. And Walter is Walter. I think that he had the reputation, not that Kaylee Ray didn't, but he was one of those individuals that anytime you saw who needs to sign with WWE this year for the last 5 years prior to signing, he was number one on that list. People wanted him. He finally came in. It's absolutely insane. We got a couple good comments in there. We got a couple of good questions. So I want to take this opportunity because admittedly I'm selfish and my coffee could use a top up. We've got a clip coming up from an upcoming interview on my end. I haven't even announced this one, friends. So you guys are going to get an exclusive clip. We've talked about some brand specific shows. We've talked about some gender specific shows. I recently chatted with an individual who's been a fundamental fulcrum of getting some women's programming established with Ring of Honor, and one of the individuals who's done a great job of one of their on-screen female talents over about the last 2 years. Here's Maria Canelos, who I got to chat with a couple of days ago, chatting about the impact that Quinn McKay is going to have tomorrow as far as the Watch Ring of Honor hashtag goes. She's going to be making her in-ring debut for ROH, facing off with Angelina Love. So here's some pre-match thoughts for y'all. Stick around. We'll see you in about a minute. Mm-hmm. Quinn McKay, talk to me a little bit about her, because you mentioned obviously the best high flyers, the best mat wrestlers, the best everything, including obviously the best backstage interviewer in the game today. She's a bit of a wild card as far as it goes. I know she's wrestled before, done a great job of that, but this will be her official Ring of Honor in-ring debut. What do you think she's going to bring? And then just take me through the experience of working with her on the backstage end.
So one thing that Quinn said to me that really has stuck with me is when she says she's going to do something, she does it, and she does it 200%. And you can see that with how she is in her backstage interviewing. You can see it when she's training, when she's been preparing for this match, her devotion to the craft, the way that she studies it while she's in the gym. So her integrity is going to be all the difference in the world. And sometimes that pure will make up for years of experience. And that is what I really admire about her. That's what makes her stand out. Working with her backstage as an interviewer, it's like I'm going back to school in a lot of ways. She's such a natural. She's so she's quick-witted and she's highly intelligent. And she pays attention to what everybody is doing and where they want to go, whether it be their character or what titles they want to go. She can keep all that information in her very tiny shell. So I admire that. I definitely admire that.
That was Maria Canelos Bennett. That was a conversation I've had on the bucket list for a long, long time, and that will be coming your way in the near future here on Love Wrestling. I've got that coming up. I've got one with Bianca Corelli as well. Santino Marella's daughter. There are a lot of I's in that sentence, so please excuse the mispronunciation on that end of things. But a couple of great things coming your way from myself. Yeah, she's actually been wrestling out of Ontario since 2018. She tried out for WWE in 2019 as part of the Canadian tryouts. Currently just doing some great things. She's a pageant queen. She's a biology student. Just a cool individual. A conversation I'm excited to bring you guys as well. However, some NXT UK championship talk in the comments throughout the break there as well, starting off with Conrad. Picking up where we left off talking about Kaylee Ray and Walter, long championship reigns. That makes me appreciate NXT UK title reigns. I just wonder what happened with Toni Storm. I feel her career took a different path. Yep. I do agree. And by no means is that a comment on her talent as a pro wrestler. But since coming over to NXT, she's almost played that, I hate the phrase, but like the gatekeeper role for a lot of people, right? Like Zoe Stark picking up her first win against Toni Storm. Mercedes Martinez using her as the launching point into the championship reign. Again, very talented wrestlers who I think we'd both argue or all argue that both deserve their pushes as well. But Toni Storm, by my money, like the gimmick just works for me. I love the rock star attitude. I love sort of the Motley Crue vibe you get from her. I know that's a very cliche way to put it, but I think it applies. It's been odd to me to see her picking up so many losses after, like you said, Conrad, such a great reign as NXT UK Women's Champion. Pete Dunne came over and really didn't get that same treatment. You know what? You know what I mean? Sorry, I should say, you know what? Makes it sound like I was about to make a really astute point. I'm not. Toni Storm came over and got the NXT Championship push right off the bat. She came and interrupted. At the end, I can't remember the specific takeover it was. It was one of their first that they presented on television. But either way, she came over the big screen, interrupted, and then immediately after that, Ember Moon made her return, which sort of took away from Toni right off the bat. It was a bit of an odd kickoff for me, and I know I'm saying it with a bit of bias just because I really like her as a pro wrestler, but I also think you hit the nail on the head. Ed hopping in with an astute point as well, and who haven't I picked on in a while? Megs. I haven't picked on you in a while. Part of these reigns includes NXT UK being completely shut a large portion of the pandemic, putting a wrench in a bunch of plans. Do you think, like, I got time for the argument that, yeah, it's unfortunate that they're extended because of the pandemic, but I also think they've put the work in that doesn't really affect their title reigns. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being locked down for the best part of a year is going to mean that you can't defend those titles, and your reigns are going to be extended because of that. But even before the pandemic hit, NXT UK was known for relatively long title runs anyway, really trying to elevate the prestige of the titles that they had there. And I think the pandemic hasn't really affected the prestige of those belts because they still feel important with being on the likes of Walter and Kaylee Ray. So yeah, I don't think they've been as affected in terms of prestige, but it certainly is in terms of getting ring time. That's been a massive issue.
You guys know what time it is?
Egg
JJ
time.
knows what time it is.
Vader time?
It's egg time! Parrish, how are the scrambled eggs?
Oh, they've been done a while.
They'll be like even rubber. They'll be like eating rubber balls.
I mean,
are you a fan of long-term booking? Tune in every month. Tune in every Sunday to Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. We got long-term storytelling out the wazoo.
The best squash match was my appetite against my eggs. I'm just going to say that.
Big fan. Big fan. Kyle, I'm going to put you on the spot. Any topics you want to talk about today? Anything on your mind as far as the world of pro wrestling? Any matches you enjoyed? Any things you're excited about for this upcoming week? What's on the mind of the Goose?
I watched AEW this week. I thought there was some pretty good stuff there. The War Games match was pretty killer.
Blood and guts. Trademark.
Yeah.
Same diff. Excuse me. The Canadian Goose. Honk, honk, honk. 1,000 pardons. Wrestling plug. Inc. I haven't watched it yet, but I admit that like a lot of it has been tainted by how that finish went down. Not so much the finish, just like why do people feel the need to complain about a wrestler not dying? Could they have changed the camera? They 100% could have changed the camera angle. I think stuff like that could have been done better, but like
Yeah,
People are complaining the dude didn't
came off the cage and went through the. It was like, I don't know. It looked like some cardboard.
It seemed like cardboard or something.
Rubber, fake rubber metal plating on it, and then he went to a pad. And I mean, honestly, like, I think it's still pretty impressive. He homeboy jumped off a 12-foot cage onto that. Like, you could. There's still a lot of potential for danger there. For sure. But like, yeah, it is one of those things where it's like maybe they could have hid that better, for sure.
Ooh, like, couple of good questions in the comments here. Maniac, Ed, don't you worry. We're touching on both of those before we close this one out. Anybody else got thoughts on that finish? I think I've said all about I need to say on it, to be honest. I don't have many outside of like, maybe change the camera angle, but I'm very glad no one hurts.
Where the heck was this hate when like Shane McMahon's jumping off all this stuff? Like when it's well known that he was jumping onto crash pads. They even put a crash pad underneath the announce table for when he jumped onto a table, and nobody's saying anything. Like let's just kind of tone it down and not nitpick every little thing. They're doing this for our entertainment, and they're putting their lives on the line. So let's just shut up and enjoy it, people. Who cares what they fell on? They did it for you in a bad time.
Part of the
happy.
I think too, though, is like you had mentioned the camera angle. I think in those kind of situations, keeping that camera wide, I think really benefits, especially the people watching at home. Because then you're not seeing too much. You're going, oh, look, it looks like he fell through cardboard and landed on a beanbag. You know.
I've seen a few people that have tweeted out like a wider angle video of it that just like for me objectively looked better, but again, like I've never wrestled. I don't intend to wrestle. I do like Ed's idea in here. Parrish versus Goose with Spencer as the special guest referee. You better believe I'm aligning with Parrish. I love you to death, Goose, but with those Love Wrestling tights in the background, he wearing them. I gotta go on that end of things. I really gotta go on that end of things. Yeah, completely agree with you, Andre. They should have shot from above and it would have looked devastating. There is stuff like that could have been done better. I think Parrish, you make a great point. Like, if you're going to critique that, be critiquing stuff, like hold that, I guess, consistency of values, for lack of a better way to put it. It's a pretty extreme way to put it, but either way, for me, like, these guys are jumping off of 12-foot fucking cages, excuse my language, for our entertainment.
Yeah,
back we're sitting there and
briefly on criticizing.
Shouldn't be complaining about for sure.
Right? Like, the key to it is something that I probably have drilled into the ground ad nauseum at this point. It's okay to critique things, but especially social media really facilitates this, right? Where people are just like, "Well, that sucked." Like, okay, cool. Why? And what would you have? Do you actually have some constructive criticism as opposed to just being a dick about it? You know, there's a difference between being critical for the sake of wanting something better, as opposed to just being an asshole and just say, well, this sucks, and not having like any substance to your argument whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Let's also say, like, look at this. AEW for a company is still relatively new. They're going to still have trial and error, just like any new company as well. So you got to give them a benefit of doubt of trying something and then learning from it, because next time they do it, if they do a better job, then guess what? They've improved on their handling of the situation. I mean, we got to be a little patient too.
They already have improved on it. If you remember the Matt Hardy bump, this one was way more safer. Chris Jericho was in a way more safer position. But I actually do want to play a bit of devil's advocate here, because when I was looking on social media about this finish, there was a lot of people claiming that you either wanted Chris Jericho to land on concrete and that ruined the finish. But I didn't see a lot of people actually claiming that, apart from the ones who were trying to argue that it was just a poor finish.
You get the louder voices with some of that stuff sometimes, rather than the majority of voices.
The fact is, that was an outstanding match. I mean, Sammy Guevara showed just how good of a wrestler he was in that match. And the finish was it could have been put a better camera angle, but it was still a brilliant match. You still got the best part of an hour's entertainment out of it, and it was a really well told story. So I don't think there's a lot of issues with the match. It's just like Joe said, sometimes it's just the nitpicking of social media where the tiniest thing can ruin a match for somebody, when really you had 59 minutes of amazing entertainment out of that match. So,
and that's your issue, exactly. Like,
nitpicking, like I said, is cool, but like have a reason for nitpicking. Don't say, oh well, this is like dumb or something. Like, okay, you need to have some substance to what you're saying, right? So
even if the answer is just it's not my personal preference, and that's why I thought, okay, that's perfectly fine to dislike things. Don't be a dick about it is the biggest thing I've always said, but that's really about it. A couple of great comments in here as well. JJ, highlighting yours first because I completely agree. Complaining about safety for the wrestlers is dumb. It is. It's not the 90s where there's crazy Mick Foley unsafe bumps. You're bang on. There shouldn't be any stuff like, and I again say that as a non-wrestler, somebody who's never been trained in how to take those things that look unsafe to me. So I can't even speak to that sort of stuff all that well, right? But like the comparison you made there, Mags, is perfect. If you're going to complain, and my complaint would err more towards the Matt Hardy side of that looked to be bad. I'd more complain about stuff like that could go worse for a wrestler than, oh, this looked a little fake because of a camera angle, but Jericho's safe and it still looked cool. You know what I mean? That's the best comparison I've got.
Let's also look at it this way. In twofolds. When has Chris Jericho ever done stuff like this, honestly? And look at why he did it. He did this to elevate MJF to a higher extreme than what he is and to make him a legit bona fide superstar in AEW where they can actually build around him as the guy and the face. Yeah. What Chris Jericho did was sacrifice himself for the better part of somebody else so they can be somebody bigger and better in the moving forward. This is, and we're criticizing why Jericho didn't die for this. Like, he doesn't need to be a martyr in his life.
I personally am very glad that Jericho didn't die for this.
Because now he can do this. And he's doing it at the age of 50, by the way. I want to see anybody in the comments at the age of 50 have the balls to do what Chris Jericho did for somebody else's career.
Maybe PC.
I ain't going to do it at 29. Now, I'm going to give, because we've got a couple of great comments in here. I want to make sure we touch on them all. We're running, we're going to run overtime. I guarantee we're going to go a couple minutes overtime on this one. But, Mighty Joe, I'll let you get the final word on this one, and then we are going to hop. Actually, I'll let you get the final word. Goose, you get to pick the next topic. Do we want to talk Daniel Bryan, or do we want to talk about NXT at next year's Survivor Series? We'll talk about both, but pick which one we're going for first.
I guess Daniel Bryan. I don't know anything about either of those two situations.
Beautiful. Excellent. This is perfect. You were the perfect guy for me to pick. Mighty Joe, the floor is yours, and then we're going to hop onto some Daniel Bryan chat.
Cool. Can I like start off with my pick for Daniel when I'm done this part?
Fine. Yeah, politicking SOB.
The only other person I could see that doing at that age that would like just be in that realm would be PCO. PCO would do something like he would take some insane bump to put somebody over just because it's PCO and he's not human. But to kick off the Daniel Bryan discussion, like for me, like where I'd want to see him. Obviously, at the top of my list would be to see him go back to Ring of Honor as Bryan Danielson. I thought he was absolutely amazing in Ring of Honor. Failing that, I'd like to see maybe have a run through, the Super J Cup or Best of Super Juniors over New Japan. To see him work with like Hiromu and some of these guys, I think would be absolutely fantastic for Daniel. But it really, for me, it doesn't matter because wherever Daniel goes, he's going to be amazing. So wherever he ends up,
he
won't be disappointed.
No,
I know his contract expired.
Yeah, so they're playing up and there are, of course, rumors that we should obviously allude to that he is strongly recommended or rumored, I guess, to be heading back to WWE. But it's fun to fantasy book. It's especially fun to fantasy book when you're talking about a guy who quite literally is in the conversation for not only the best wrestler in the last 20 years, but I think a lot of people would have time for the argument that guy's a Mount Rushmore talent.
He's so good that he looks like what he is, a goat.
Yeah.
I want to be upset at that comment, and I'm trying to find a way to justify my anger, but it was also terrific. So I can't be all that fantastic. I am going to let you then pick up on Maniacs' fantastic piece of fantasy booking here. Hypothetical. Omega goes to Ring of Honor to collect the world title and the final countdown hits. Bryan Danielson comes out saying, if you want to take the ROH title, you have to go through me first.
My question, if this is a scenario, why isn't Samoa Joe going through it? Because he's the greatest Ring of Honor champion of all time.
Or both. Why not both?
Yeah. That, like, honestly, like when I think of the Ring of Honor world title, I think of the guy that made it a world title in Samoa Joe. He carried that thing for almost 2 years and really transcended. He put it on the map. He was the Hulk Hogan to that Ring of Honor world title. Daniel Bryan and maybe Nigel McGuinness could have been considered the Stone Cold and like kind of made it like what it was. But if we're going to do that angle, I think Samoa Joe has to be involved.
Yeah. Got a couple of people hopping in the fantasy booking chat here. Bryan Danielson to All Japan to compete in the Champion Carnival.
That'd be all right, too. Yeah.
I'd quite like it. Here's a personal favorite of mine. Bryan Danielson versus Canadian Goose. Book it. I don't know how we'll get the money together for that, but if we get the money together for that, I would really like to see that.
I bet we would have a fun match.
Daniel Bryan could have a fun match with me, nonetheless, a talented pro wrestler. Tom hopping in, good to see you, Tom. There's no reason Bryan can't sign a new WWE contract after maybe a 5-6 month tour of other federations. He's got a list to tick off. Yeah. And like some of those guys that he could, you could throw pretty well any name out there and I'll find a way to be excited about it. But like first thing that came to mind for me when there were these potential fantasy booking match coming up, John Gresham. Like, get that guy in a ring with Daniel Bryan. Have it happen in a backyard. Have it happen on top of a mountain. Have it happen in blood sport. Have it happen. I don't care where, how, or when. Just please make this happen somehow before I expire from this earth.
I don't understand how we've been talking about Daniel Bryan going to other federations and nobody has brought up AEW yet. Like,
because nobody wants to see him in AEW.
It's the easy option, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
it makes
every
sense.
WWE release, it's like, oh, he's going to AEW. Like everybody in the internet is always like that. For like every WWE release, oh, they're going to AEW. It's just too cliche.
I get it, but it's Daniel Bryan. Like, if anybody should go to AEW, like
they have too many people there already, though. That's the problem.
And I think, to be honest, it would have been a matter of time before it was brought up. I think that, like, rightfully so, there's the romanticized idea, much like Parrish, like you said earlier, that I'll give Conrad a shout for you here. Samoa Joe, full P, you got a point there. I think there's a romanticized idea of Daniel Bryan sort of going back home, for lack of a better way to put it. I love that idea in any promotion, you know. When Gail Kim went back to Impact, that was huge for me because it's a wrestler returning to their roots, right? I love the story on those ends. I really, really love the stories on those ends. Tom hopping in. I hope we see Bryan and Joe in a G1 climax. I'd love that. You got a lot of people agreeing with you here on that one.
Well, those two in a World Tag League. Bryan and Joe's a tag team in World Tag League.
I mean, Bryan and Joe was a tag team showing up on AEW to fight the Bucks. Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Oh, absolutely
Bryan and Joe
fantastic.
Versus Penta and Ray Phoenix would be fantastic. Like, you know, if you watch
Ray Phoenix would probably be the first guy I'd want to see Bryan face in AEW. A couple great shouts here as well from JJ Bryan and Impact facing Chris Bay or Ace Austin. Chris Bay, and you heard it, well, not here first, but you heard it here first on this chat. He's going to be the guy to dethrone Kenny Omega and Impact. Yeah, there's my money. Before we pick it up here, I do want to shout as well. Throwback, I appreciate you throwing this out here, man. On a serious note, thank you guys. It'll be 2 years since my mom passed on May 23rd. Mother's Day has been rough, and having you guys have a conversation about something that makes me happy has made my day better, even if I'm doing oil changes. Well, I can't say I'm envious of the oil change thing, man, but thanks for hopping in and thanks for saying that. It's appreciated that you're spending a day that means a lot with us, and that goes for everybody, but especially on a day like today, man, that means a lot. Thanks for throwing that in there. And, of course, everybody else, we said it off the start of the show, but in all seriousness, make sure
you have to appreciate your mom every day.
I was just going to say, make sure you call your mom if you've got the opportunity. Obviously, please make sure they're comfortable, you're comfortable, and you're safe to do so. But if you've got the chance to see your mom, hug your mom. If you don't, call her, tell her you love her. Mom's rule. I don't have a better way to close that out. I really don't.
My mama.
Thanks on
somebody call my mama.
Thanks on that throwback. It's appreciated you share something like that. Tom, Chris Bay is a name that Cody keeps bringing up in conference calls, so it's not a bad shout. I like to think that I can throw a good one in there every once in a while, right? Even a Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? Moose, also a great shout. Also a great shout. And one that I've got a lot of time for.
I believe his contract's up soon as well, though, for Impact. So
I think he said June, but I did only see that on Twitter. So much like our John Cena conversation earlier. It could have been from @Impact with like 4 underscores following it. So I could be wrong there. Anybody else want to throw some Daniel Bryan shouts out there? I do want to touch quickly. We'll maybe make it our 1 minute or less segment here on the comment from earlier about NXT. But I want to make sure we get everybody's Daniel Bryan shouts out there too if we're going to start that conversation.
Yeah, I would love to see if Kenny Omega is to go the Ring of Honor route. I'd like to actually see him work with John Gresham and kind of elevate him, because I do think John Gresham's next move is AEW, WWE type of scenario. Maybe it's even Impact just to join with his wife. But I would love to see even a collection of them of Ring of Honor, maybe bringing back these guys now that they have, because when you look at it on the market is Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, CM Punk has expressed interest in getting back into creative or some sense. He's opening more up to that idea. And how can you not include all 3 of those at some point in Ring of Honor?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I like that you bring that up too, Parrish, because it's something that I think Impact has done really well, is not only bringing back past stars, like you even see with Taylor Wilde a couple of weeks ago, but really using the timing of Slammiversary as like a who may show up. There are a ton of great Ring of Honor talents out there right now. Like you mentioned the big 3 right there. No need for me to extrapolate on names like that when you're talking about them. They were supposed to have, and I forget what it was called, but it was a past versus present event. There was quite literally people were flying down to this show last year when everything was canceled because of COVID. I think you could do something like that again, where you almost have like a throwback night or an event like that, where you do make it specifically about those names from the past. Like Tom talked about earlier.
Stand.
Well, you know, it's a hilarious concept, but like an idea similar to that really wouldn't be bad. Like if you had, like we talk about, like, headline, like we'll use my easy example of a Daniel Bryan versus John Gresham, right? You've got such a great opportunity to bring those guys back if Joe wanted to come in and hop on wherever he may fit in. Ring of Honor, you know, I know we've talked about it a lot, and by no means do I think they're a slept-on promotion. But I think over the next year or so, just with the directions they've got going in leadership and as far as their on-screen talent goes, they're going to make some huge strides over the next year or so, I really, really believe.
And let's not forget about our local favorite, Matt Taven, too. I mean, he's still an untapped talent that we haven't talked about. And Joe, just please get it out of the way.
I was just going to say,
Joe, do you have something to say?
Yes.
Okay, that was enough time, Joe Spencer. I'm just kidding.
Another great matchup for Daniel in Ring of Honor. You can kind of see in the background, Mr. Matt Taven versus Daniel would be something that'd be really cool. But I think there's the possibility. I don't know if anybody's actually suggested it. What could happen is he very well could go on to almost like a handshake kind of agreement with WWE to just kind of do occasional things when he wants to do them. That's a very realistic possibility. That I think.
Well, the relationship between the two companies is very real, especially with Gabe Sapolsky, I believe, still working in WWE and used to run Ring of Honor. And we haven't even talked about Roderick Strong and his status, and he has very strong ties with that. And Nigel McGuinness too. There is so much of this.
Nigel can't. Nigel can't.
No, but he can commentate. He can facilitate it and things like that, right? Like there's just involvement, and I do think a past versus present show would be very cool given the situation and the availability we have now, better than any other time. Timing is everything in wrestling, and this could be a good time.
Yeah. And you talk about lapsed fans, and that'd be a perfect way to bring back some lapsed fans who have got a bit disillusioned with wrestling. If you bring the likes of Joe and Punk in that Ring of Honor setting that they were so known for, I think you could bring back a lot of older fans.
Chris Hero.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Great shout. Great shout. I do want to talk
El Generico and Kevin Steen.
Oh, no, yeah. Generico's still feeding the orphans down in Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very hungry, Maxie.
Come on. And they're also about 25 years old now as well.
Here is what we are going to make our final question of the day, which we usually like to make a 1 minute or less segment. Bagsy, we'll start with you. I know it's about 4 or 5 months early. Well, you're asking early. I'm getting to your comment late, Ed. So we'll call her even on that. Do you guys want NXT as part of Survivor Series again, or would you rather War Games in that time frame like normal? I love the idea, and I completely agree with you, Ed, to kick it off, that they should be one or the other. I don't want them involved in both. Like, it just seems like too much.
Why not both? Why not both?
Because it's, for lack of a better way to put it, it's too much in one. Yeah. I like the marquee events spread out, I guess is the best way to put it. And Survivor Series and War Games, despite them being, NXT up until 2 years ago being the third, developmental brand, those two events still hold about equal weight to me, I guess, as far as the wrestling scope goes. My suggestion was going to be, why not move War Games to like January or something along those lines? Make that a big event. I think they even did it in January once, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong. Been wrong before. Will be wrong again. Well, move it to January. I don't know how you do it, but have like the captain then be the next challenger for the NXT championship, or make War Games something like Royal Rumble-esque, in which it leads directly into a championship opportunity or a spot in the Dusty Rhodes Cup for a tag, something like that. I think you can, not that they've done, it's a bad way to put it, they can do more with War Games on that end of things. The match itself is like chef's kiss. It's as perfect as it gets, even despite not having a roof. I would rather, saying that, have them involved in Survivor Series. If they're a third brand, make them a third brand. Tom hopping in with a great shout, and then Mags, I'll move to you. The main event of Survivor Series, if it happened now, would be Lashley versus Reigns versus Cross.
Oh, that's just spicy. That is a spicy match.
That's the perfect. That is a spicy match. That is spicy. Well done, Mags. You get the big screen to answer this. You got a minute or less.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think the problem I would have with War Games is we've just come off the back of Blood and Guts, which was absolutely outstanding. Having a War Games in pretty soon would feel overkill. And I think with War Games, you need a storyline to get to why the two teams need to be in a War Games. So I think maybe giving it a miss this year and then having an NXT Survivor Series team would make a lot more sense. Have that kind of like brand competition again.
Sounds good. Parrish, I'm moving to you next. Your thoughts?
Well, what happened to the Worlds Collide? Because I thought that was kind of the NXT version of Survivor Series, and I would love to see Survivor Series more between Raw, SmackDown, Worlds Collide, be NXT, NXT UK, because that is such a cool concept.
Incredible show. That's an incredible show. Well done. That and like, oh, thank you. Sorry, big screen again. I'll shut up.
No, just kidding. But like, we're talking about that triple threat.
Don't worry.
And as spicy as that is, we also could be getting Cross versus Walter, and guess what? That's even spicier to me. And like, I just love the fact that we also have NXT and NXT UK kind of have that dynamic that's almost like Raw and SmackDown. It's very much similar in concept, and I think that's really cool because you're treating NXT as kind of its own company inside WWE, and I think that's a cooler dynamic. I think a Royal Rumble would be very cool to include all at one point, but yeah, I think that'd be a really cool thing at some point too, is to conclude it with all three or all four brands. Sorry, but no, I mean right now, like NXT UK, like they need more American and more American opportunities and more eyes in the American scene on them. So that's why I like Worlds Collide.
Great call. Mighty Joe, I'll move to you. You've gotten a lot of last calls, so you're getting the third last call.
With me with this, and Megsy hit on a little bit, in traditional Mighty Joe fashion, I'm going to kind of look at the bigger picture, the bigger scope of this kind of stuff here. With these gimmick-style matches, I think with the exception of Royal Rumble, because, I mean, that should happen at the same time of the year to build towards WrestleMania. But when it comes to, like War Games, when it comes to Elimination Chamber and these kind of gimmick matches, they happen too much like clockwork every year, where they're always happening at the same time. Like we need to have, like Magsy said, to have kind of like an organic reason for why these teams or these wrestlers are pushing each other to the point for the reason to have these matches. I think it needs to be a little bit more spontaneous for it to just be better, for lack of lack of a better term. Like this stuff it happens too regular. Like actually like have a reason why and build it over time. And like, okay, we piss each other off to the point. It's like, okay, now we're going to destroy each other in the War Games match, for example, right?
I think the biggest one we tend to hear that one about is Hell in a Cell, and I completely agree on that. And I think War Games, like,
because the matches themselves can be good, but just that there's not enough investment in it, because it's like, well, we're getting to the certain time of year, we know that this is going to happen.
It's October. These guys are going to hate each other more for some reason. Exactly. I think War Games has largely avoided that for the most part. I will at least give it that, and that it's just frankly been better in that sense, in my opinion. But I do agree. The organic reason is Regal screaming War Games. Okay. Yeah, you know what? Joe, every point you have just made, sorry, moot. All right, Kyle, I'll let you get the final word, but you have to kick it off with a request from Throwback, who's been very kind and thrown us some support, both subscribing earlier this month and, of course, throwing some cheers throughout the conversation. So please give me your best War Games. And I'm going to turn to everybody else on this one before we close it out, too.
Give you my best War Games?
Your best William Regal yelling War Games.
Honk, honk, honk. War Games!
All righty. Joe.
Yes.
Regal doesn't honk.
Joe, War Games. Give me your best War Games. Give me your War Games.
War Games.
Parrish.
War Games.
Magsy.
War Games.
That's true. He has the accent.
Magsy.
That's not even fair.
Magsy Windsor. Magsy 100% Windsor. Before we close her out here on the show, let's get to the couple of comments that we've got here left to close it out. For the mid-card title as it stands, Gargano versus Apollo versus Sheamus sounds like a very interesting match. Yeah, that's one you would never, I think, come up with in like fantasy booking. Oh, this is what I would want to see. But like you said, JJ, super interesting to hear. What do you think of NXT Bash at the Beach? Shotzi might have called it with an inflatable tank. Someone sent a photo. She said Bash at the Beach. I hope so. I hope that they do as well with that sort of stuff as they would do with the In Your House and those events that they've done over the last little bit. That's my opinion. Make War Games like New Year's Revolution. Make it new War Game Eve pay-per-view. I got time for it. I don't like doing things on New Year's, to be honest with you. And a very good shout as well by Tom at the end here. Triple H has been open about viewing NXT UK and even 205 Live as under the NXT brand and umbrella. War Games involving NXT versus NXT UK versus 205 could be fun. Let's put a pin in that one because we will be back next week, ladies and gentlemen, with another edition of Sunday Brunch here in Love Wrestling's sphere, I suppose. Whether you're getting the same cast of characters or not, I can guarantee it's going to be an absolute blast, not only for the people we've got on screen, but individuals like you taking the time to tune in on a Sunday morning. There's a lot of wrestling programming out there. There's even more individuals in wrestling content creation. So the fact that you guys took the time this morning, grabbed a coffee, grabbed a mimosa, or some combination of both, that's what the break's there for, is to transition over. A little wink, wink, nudge, nudge for all of you guys there. Thank you guys, though, for taking the time, tuning in. Canadian Goose, we closed with you, so we'll open with you. I'm pulling up your link for your shop right now. Where else can people find the Canadian Goose?
Well, you can find me at Canadian Goose KS on Twitter, Kyle Shaw on Facebook. I got these two T-shirts here. I got this one. That one's made by Cameron Stevens from Newfoundland, and I got this one here. This one was designed by like a professional comic book artist, Rad Pencils. So you can check those out at my Pro Wrestling Tees store, which is listed there at the bottom. Definitely, please do. It really helps me out. I had a lot of unfortunate sudden computer repairs that needed to be taken care of this month. So anyone that buys a T-shirt will be extra appreciated this month for sure.
I would. Don't we all? But as Shaw mentioned, some unfortunate stuff coming up in the last little bit. So show him some support. It is always appreciated when you guys do, however you choose to, whether it's watching or whether it's hopping down in those links that we throw up on the screen here. Mighty Joe, it is your turn. Like a cheap electrician, my friend. Plug away.
Well, as usual, we've got Turnbuckle Talk coming up tomorrow with Carl Careful and myself. For Rewind this week, we're going to be going back to the year 2002 with NWA/TNA. AJ Styles versus Low Key versus Jerry Lynn versus Psychosis for what I believe at the time was called the X Championship. I don't think it was quite the X division at that point. I think it was just called the X Championship. Absolutely fantastic match. I think you guys are really going to dig that one. I mean, a really interesting mix of individuals in that match, and actually one that I actually haven't watched before. So I'm going to be seeing it for the first time as we're kind of breaking it down. So I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully you guys are too.
What match?
Very cool,
X
man.
will break it down.
Yeah.
And it's going to give it to you. That was, sorry, Joe, one more quick refresher for the Goose there. He didn't pick up. Which match are you watching?
Oh, 2000. We're going back to 2002. It was NWA/TNA, like they were kind of co-promoting at the time. AJ versus Low Key versus Jerry Lynn versus Psychosis for the X Championship.
Is that a ladder match?
I don't know yet. I haven't watched the match yet.
Okay.
JJ summoned it absolutely perfectly. That match sounds insane. It sounds insane as it sounds great to tune in to Turnbuckle Rewind on Wednesday. I tried to transition for the plug there. It wasn't 100% efficient, but I tried my best, and I had fun. Magsy, you can be found in a lot of places, including on last week's Mind Behind, but where can people find you in the future?
Okay, so coming up this week, we'll have Carlos and I will have 5 rounds out tomorrow, where we looked at yesterday's UFC event, Michelle Waterson against Marina Rodriguez. And then on Chain Wrestling, we are watching Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in the steel cage match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So check out that in the upcoming days. But yeah, I would really appreciate it if you go back in the Love Wrestling archives and check out my chat with Spencer on the Man Behind. It was an absolute honor being on that show.
2 handsome gentlemen, and I certainly took up number 2 as far as that one goes. Parrish, speaking of number 2, you and I are going to be on the POS show in the next little bit. There is a transition for you guys. But where else can people keep track of you? And then, of course, as I know you'll probably request of me, I'm pulling up the link for St. Jude's. So the floor is yours, friends.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a Principe type of thing. I want you guys to go to this link right there and help yourselves. Don't be slow on this. Make sure you catch up and donate, and please butter yourself as a human being and help a good cause, or else you'll be toast. I want to just make sure that everyone, I had to because they're right there and I'm not eating it. So, but yeah, I mean, we all know where you can find me. Just make sure you check in lovewrestling.ca for all your pro wrestling needs. Chris Parrish on all the platforms, but this is the big one. Please help St. Jude's. They help all the sick children out there. So make sure that you go out there and do so.
It's an absolutely great cause. They do it all throughout the year, but throughout May, putting you over, who are friends of ours, not only as far as it goes here on Love Wrestling, but just good people, are raising money for St. Jude's. Like Parrish said, they just raise money for kids who need help, whether it be kids with cancer, kids with sicknesses outside of that sort of thing. It's great. It's absolutely great. And if you guys wanted to go and support them, I'm going to be leaving that link up as I go through this here graphic that our good friend Zach does up ever so beautifully. This is what we got for you this week. We've got some stuff from myself and Josh coming your way tomorrow. I'm interviewing Sean Moore, and he's got some stuff on the WWE Women's Division. Rick and Ella are joining me on the Mind Behind this weekend. Of course, Turnbuckle Rewind, the War Report, and the debut of Between Two Beards. That'll be JPJ and Wrestling Plug Inc. That one is going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait for you guys to tune in and check out not only what they've got going on, what I've got going on, but what the rest of the great individuals have going on here on Love Wrestling. JJ, the pleasure is all ours, man. Thank you for being I'm stuttering over my words because I can't think of enough ways to thank you, whether it's just chatting with you in the chats of other Twitch streams, or whether it's you hopping on and supporting quite literally every stream you possibly can on my end. It's hugely appreciated. Thanks you to each and every one of you. Probably not. I would highly doubt it. I just know. Thank you for making the day better. Throwback, and the same to you, man. I can't wait to hop on with you. I know I say that every week, but I keep bringing it up because I can't wait to hop on and chat with you here sooner rather than later. However, we are wrapped up here for Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. If you guys are watching on Facebook or you're watching on YouTube, thank you guys. You're going to hear our music here in about 20 seconds time. If you guys are tuned in on Twitch, however, we are going to raid not only a great Canadian pro wrestler in Speedball, Mike Bailey, we're going to be heading over and supporting his 10-hour charity stream covering Big Egg Wrestling Universe, a 10-hour women's wrestling show in Japan. I believe in 94, but I could be wrong on that. He's watching the entire thing and taking donations for charity through it. So you guys can see the Raid Now button on Twitch. If you guys are seeing that, feel free to join us. If you guys are on Facebook or YouTube, like I mentioned, you guys are going to get a nice little beat of easy listening music. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Sunday.